श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् ॐ अखण्डानन्दसम्बोधः वन्दनात् यस्य जायते गोविन्दं तमहं वन्दे चिदानन्दतनुं गुरुम्. So yesterday we were seeing na ekadhi vishyatvena lingam vyashṭirbhavati atha. Therefore, this linga shariram does not become vyashti. It's not become Vyashti. Na should not be connected with Vyashti. This Linga Shariram, this Vyashti Linga Shariram, this is an individual subtle body. Why is it called individual subtle body? Because it is not an object of one knowledge. There are multiple individual subtle bodies. Therefore, there are multiple knowledges. With reference to the collective subtle body, there is only one. All the subtle bodies clubbed together as one subtle body. Therefore, that is a object of one knowledge. One over. Now, subtle body, subtle body, subtle body, subtle body, subtle body, subtle body. Every subtle body we have to individually understand. Therefore, it is not an object of one knowledge. Okay. Now, yadetadvyaṣṭyupahitaṃ cidābhāsasamanvitam caitanyaṃ taijasa iti nigadanti manīṣiṇaḥ tejomayāntaḥkaraṇopādhitvenaiva esha tejasah yadetat vyaṣṭyupahitaṃ cidābhāsasamanvitam caitanyaṃ taijasa iti nigadanti manīṣiṇaḥ tejomayāntaḥkaraṇopādhitvenaiva esha tejasah vyaṣṭyupahitaṃ cidābhāsasamanvitam yat caitanyaṃ, this consciousness, because everything here is consciousness. There is nothing which can exist without consciousness. Everything in itself has inherently consciousness, the knowledge itself. Without that, there can be no existence at all. And this existence which we are talking about is a vyaṣṭyupahitaṃ cidābhāsasamanvitam. Vyashti, individual. Upahitam, having it as an embodiment. Upadhi sahitam, having it as an embodiment. Having the individual body as the embodiment, having the individual subtle body as the embodiment, having individual subtle body as the limiting adjunct. This cidābhāsasamanvitam, this one which has the reflection of that consciousness. This jiva, a subtle body now. So this fellow, see, he says, etat taijasa iti manīṣiṇaḥ nigadanti. This fellow is given the name taijasa. By whom? Manīṣiṇaḥ. People who are knowledgeable regarding these matters. They say this fellow to be named taijasa. Why is he named taijasa? There should be some meaning. Because in today's world, we give names which have no meanings just because we heard it somewhere or we read it somewhere to sound nice, we gave that name. People in India, they started calling the kids as Chintu, Mintu, Pintu, some pet names. There is no real name there. Pet name becomes the name. There is no real meaning. The idea is whatever comes to your mouth cannot be named. In your mouth, saliva also come. Why don't you have a name saliva to people? No, it cannot be. You don't give those kind of names. Then what is the name? The name should have a meaning associated with the person. That is how a name is. Either a name is associated with the characteristics of a person, or you want that person to have the characteristics of the name. Name is not always given because that person has those characters. People are given name Rama. Is he a Rama? No. The parents want him to be like Rama, so they give him the name Rama. So everything has a connection. So earlier we said why we called it prajna, because it is knowledge. Therefore, knowledge is prajna. Prajna is prajna. So that is the name we give for the individual causal body. And the individual causal, the collective causal body, we gave the name Ishvara. So now he gave the collective subtle body names, not one name. He gave the name Hiranyagarbha, Sūtrātma, which are optionally used in other places. Very rarely they will give these two names in one place. But he not only gave Hiranyagarbha and Sūtrātma, he also gave the name Prana to that very subtle body. collective subtle body. Now he is giving the individual name taijasa. Why it is called as taijasa? Tejas means illumination, bright illumination, tejas. Now he says the meaning for the word. tejomayāntaḥkaraṇopādhitvenaiva tejasa. This is given the name tejas because it has the embodiment of heart, which is bright. Because of the shining embodiment of heart, because of the shining embodiment of mind, it is given the name tejas. So, okay, tejas. sthūlātsūkṣmatayā vyaṣṭihi asya sūkṣmavapurmatam asya jāgarasaṃskāramayatvādvapurucyate. Now, what is the situation? This is individual body. How do you know that's individual body? He says subtle body. How do you know it is subtle body? So he says sthūlātsūkṣmatayā vyaṣṭihi asya sūkṣmavapurmatam asya jāgarasaṃskāramayatvādvapurucyate. sthūlātsūkṣmatayā vyaṣṭihi asya sūkṣmavapurmatam. sthūlātsūkṣmatayā, since it is subtle than the grosser body, this is accepted to be subtle body. This is given the name subtle body because it's subtle than the grosser body. Okay. And jāgarasaṃskāramayatvādvapurucyate asya vapuhu uchyate. Why do you call it a body? We see a body here, but there is no body in the dream state. No, there is body. Then what is that body made of? Then he says jāgarasaṃskāramayatvādvapurucyate. Since it is a product of thought imprints of the waking state, it is called as body. See, we have to discuss all these things. In the table, first is the body, causal body. Then we have the kosha, anandamaya kosha. Then we have the avastha, the state, which is a deep sleep state. Then we have the collective causal body name, which is a Ishvara. Then the collective individual causal body name, which is prajna. Okay. Now come to all this should be explained. Now come to the subtle body. Subtle body. The body is subtle. The kosha is a vijñānamaya, manomaya, and pranamaya. Okay. Now the sheath is the avastha is the state is a dream state, swapna. Then the collective body name is a hiranyagarbha, sūtrātma, prana. The name for the individual body is a individual subtle body is a taijasa. So we have all that which need to be filled in the table. Everything is explained. So he says vapuhu uchyate. Now, I don't understand. You call that a body, and that body in the dream state is caused by the thought imprints of the waking state. What does that mean actually? What is dream state? See, I am having waking state, this body of waking state, this gross body which is in waking state because of the thought imprints. I am having the dream state also because of thought imprints. What is the difference? The difference is the thought imprints of past karma makes the gross body. The past karma of the previous births, that becomes a package of prarabdha karma, that becomes the cause for your gross body. Subtle body. The thought imprints, not of the previous karma always. The thought imprints of the waking state. But why did I add not always the previous karmas? I should have said simply as it is said here, the thought imprints of the waking state. That is what it says. Simple, I should have also said that. No. Then what is the difference? The difference is the thought imprints are not only the cause for the subtle body. It can sometimes be triggered by your punya papa also. If you want to enjoy, if you have to enjoy some happiness coming out of the dream. Yesterday I had a very beautiful dream. Why will you experience happiness for something which you had in dream? Whatever dream object you are talking about, that doesn't exist. How can I be happy for something which happened in dream, which is not real? That is because that experience of happiness is caused by your past karma. Or you wake up sweating. I had a nightmare. Oh, that was a dream. Yes, but it was terrifying. How can something which is there in the dream state be carried forward to the waking state? You don't take any money from here or your card from here to the dream state to spend. No. Even the food we have in the fridge, it does not help us in the dream state. We are hungry or crying out of hunger. Nothing helps. Whatever exists here does not exist there. Nothing is coming for our help. But something experienced there is experienced here also. Continues sometimes. How? Because your punya papa also sometimes aids the dream. Not always. Sometimes aids the dream. Because if you have to, otherwise. I had a dream yesterday. What dream? Don't remember. Is it good dream or bad dream? I don't know. We don't even know whether it's a good dream or bad dream. We don't know what kind of dream it is, what dream it is. But still, I had a dream. Why should you be worried when you don't remember it? Thing is, that is the problem. Now, he says, that dream, what is the cause for that? So he says, svapne jāgarakālīnavāsanāparikalpitān, taijaso viṣayānbhuṅkte, sūkṣmārthānsūkṣmavṛttibhiḥ. Beautiful. He says, svapne jāgarakālīnavāsanāparikalpitān, taijaso viṣayānbhuṅkte, sūkṣmārthānsūkṣmavṛttibhiḥ. Svapne, in the dream state. What happens? Taijasaḥ sūkṣmavṛttibhiḥ. Through the taijasa, this fellow, the subtle body, individual subtle body of his, the subtle thought function of his, because of the subtle thought function of that taijasa, jāgarakālīnavāsanāparikalpitān, whatever he experienced in the waking state, it leaves a thought imprint. Whatever thought imprint it left, the experience of the waking state, based on that he is experiencing in the dream state. You won't experience anything which is not experienced in the waking state, in the dream state. But wait. Sometimes there is a horse with wings. Where did I experience? You experienced. I have never seen horse with wings or unicorn. Yes, you have not experienced, but you have seen a horse and wings. You have seen a deer and a horn. You have seen a mare and a horn. You cut and paste it. It is all possible in dream state. That is what we do in the dream state. And that is why we see things which we have not experienced. But I have never seen ghost. How can you explain that? So he says that is also like this Google. Whenever we speak something, he says we are talking to it. Hi Google, he is listening always. So the problem is this thought function, whatever we do, knowingly, unknowingly, they are all registered. We hear something, we just register it. Whether we like it or not, we register it. That is the biggest problem. And in our subconscious, it is registered, and in the dream state, it is brought out. I have this memory. Pick it out. Okay. Dig it and pick it. And we use it in cutting pasting. That is the problem. So he says that thought imprints of the waking state is what is carried forward in the dream state, and that is why you have all the mixtures of experiences there. And they are all subtle, sūkṣmārthān. They are not gross. They are all subtle. They seem to be gross in the dream state, but they are all subtle. Because the waking state experiences are external to the body, but the dream state experiences are inside the body. And inside the body, they can only be subtle. So, viṣayānbhuṅkte, those subtle objects he is experiencing in the dream state. Now, earlier he said the causal body, gross body, the causal individual body, they are both same. And while experiencing this subtle body also, we said there is subtle body, and then we started subtle body is the Vijnanamaya plus Pranamaya plus Manomaya. This clubbed together is person. And we started experiencing what is Vijnanamaya, what is Manomaya, what is Pranamaya. But we never explained whether we are talking about the collective body or individual body. We decided, since we are talking something in the beginning, so it should be collective body. Because later we said the individual body. Need not be. Because both are same. In causal body, we said both collective causal body and individual causal body are not different, they are same. Similarly, he is establishing that the collective subtle body and collective individual body are not different. So he says, samaṣṭerapi vyaṣṭeḥ sāmānyenaiva pūrvavat abheda eva jñātavyo jātyekatve kuto bhidā. Samaṣṭerapi api vyaṣṭeḥ cha pūrvavat sāmānyenaiva abheda eva jñātavyo. Both for samaṣṭi and vyaṣṭi, both for collective and individual subtle bodies, both should be understood to be non-different, indifferent, identical. Abheda means indifferent, but identical here. Okay, they should be understood as same. Why? Why will you accept the collective body and subtle body? Where there is no similarity, that is collective, there is subtle. No, there is similarity in other side. Like there is a big cow and there is a small cow. Does not really matter. There is a calf, that is also cow. Does not really matter. All these have cowness. That is what is important. So similarly, here also, that collective body also has a subtleness. Individual body also has subtleness. Subtleness is the common thing which connects both. That's a good way of thinking. But did we not say Vedantins don't accept jati? We said already during the explanation of a gross body that Vedantins don't, subtle causal body, that Vedantins don't accept the jati. Jati means class. We don't accept class. Why? Because the definition of class defies Vedanta. Why? Definition of class says ekatvam, nityatvam, anekānagatam. Ekam, nityam, anekānagatam. It is one, it is eternal, existing in multiple. We don't care about existing in multiple, but one and eternal. There is a contradiction with the self. Self, only self alone is one and eternal. There can be nothing which is one and eternal. Therefore, we don't accept class. Then why are you saying jātyekatve? You are giving the reason as well. Because the class is one. You are giving the reason. Why so? That is because the logicians accept so. The common people understand. So I am giving the example. If you are so smart, you should have asked another question. What is the question? Instead of asking, why do you say this class? Why do you accept the class? You should have asked, how can there be class for something which is one? For multiple things, you can say class. A commonality is what is classes, right? This, they all have, they are all cow. So cowness is the class. Fine. For something which is individual, there is no multiplicity. There is only one. There can be no class. Where will you see, let us say, jingness? In the object called jing, there is jingness. How many jing is there? There is only one jing. There can be no jingness that can be seen anywhere. So there is no need for. Or for you to understand akasha, space. How many spaces are there? Only one. Spaceness, I say, akashatva. How can that be? So, like we accept the spaceness, though it is one, we say in collective also subtleness. There is no issue here. So, jātyekatve, since they all have something in commonality, which is a class of a subtleness. Therefore, there is no duality here. Okay. Now, one are the subtle and gross, the subtle and collective subtle body and the individual subtle body, only they are identical, or is there something else also? He says there is. What? dvayorupādhyorekatve tayorapyabhimāninoḥ sūtrātmanastaijasasyāpi abheda pūrvavat. As said, as earlier also he said pūrvat. As we explained earlier in the aforesaid manner, here also we have to understand the collective and individual subtle body as a similar, same. Now the question is, are the collective and the individual subtle body only same, or also the one who identifies himself with the collective and individual subtle body the same? That's a question. The fellow who identifies himself with the collective body is a Sūtrātma, etc. Hiranyagarbha, Sūtrātma, Prana. The fellow who identifies himself with the individual subtle body is a taijasa. Is this fellow and that fellow identical or not? So for that he says, dvayorupādhyorekatve. Though the embodiment, he says, upadhi means the embodiment. Though the embodiment for both means the collective subtle and the individual subtle. Though the embodiment for both are, we have established that as similar. One. So, upadhyorekatve, when the embodiment is same, whatever is embodied, one who identifies with that embodiment, that should also be same. So he says, taijasabhimāninoḥ, the one who identifies with that collective body, the one who identifies with the individual body. Who is the one who identifies with the collective body? Who is the one who identifies with the individual? You may have forgotten. So he says, sūtrātmanastaijasapi, the sūtrātmanastaijasapi, one who identifies with the collective body, one who identifies with the individual body, they both are two are pūrvavat. Like the previously said, they are also identical. There is no difference between them. Okay. Now, that is why I said earlier that when we, from the beginning, we are talking about one individual's self, which is, or one individual jiva, which is seeing everything in the, like in the dream. So that is established again here. Okay. Now, evaṃ sūkṣmaprapañcasya prakāraśyāstra sammatah acha sthūlaprapañcasya prakārah kathyate shrunu. Now, we have explained the subtle body, the creation of subtle body, collective individual, the creation of causal body earlier, collective individual. Now he is saying, evaṃ, in this way, shāstra-sammatah sūkṣmaprapañcah prakārah. I am not explaining something which came to my mind on the fly, but I am explaining something which is accepted by the Shastras, which is traditionally accepted. That idea I have presented till now regarding the subtle body. Sūkṣma prapañcasya prakara, the creation of subtle body, etc. I have explained. Now, atha, hereafter, sthūla prapañcasya prakara kathyate shrunu. I am going to explain the creation of the gross body. Listen, shrunu, listen carefully. Okay. Now, how does the gross body come into existence? We forgot how the subtle body and causal body came into existence. We'll go to that first. So there is a ignorance. When there is tamoguna predominance in that ignorance, first comes the tanmatras, these elements. Okay, the unprocessed elements. From each of the unprocessed elements, sattvic aspect, individually from each of them comes the sense organs of knowledge. Collectively comes intellect and mind. When you connect the intellect with the sense organs of knowledge, you have the jnānamaya kosha. When you connect the mind with the sense organ of knowledge, we have a manomaya kosha, the mental sheath. So we have the intellectual sheath and the mental sheath. Now, from the tanmatras again, rajasic aspect, we have the sense organs of action individually. From it, collectively we have prana. Prana plus sense organ of action, they are pranamaya kosha, the prana sheath, the vital air sheath. Very good. Now we want to discuss the gross body. Okay. From Satvikamsha, from Rajsamsha, from Tamashamsa, from the Tamoguna of the no. Why no? We have completed Sattva and Rajoguna, right? Yes, we are talking about this creation of elements itself from Tamoguna predominant ignorance. So that is not what Tamoguna. You don't need to go into so much of Tamoguna. Then how? We already said this is unprocessed. We qualified the 5 elements as unprocessed 5 elements. We didn't just say 5 elements. Tanmatra we said. Sūkṣmabhuta we said. We never said it is gross elements. They are subtle elements. What is the difference actually? There is difference. See, I pour oil into the fire. What happens? Since the oil is watery and the fire is fiery, so it should have to put off. Whichever is powerful should overpower the other. Normally, the oil will put off the fire, extinguish the fire. Does it happen something like that? No. You throw fire or you throw oil, or if you throw petrol or something, it burns even more. Oh, I don't understand that. Okay, I'll give you another example. You throw wood into fire, what happens? It burns it into ashes. Okay, you churn the wood, 2 pieces of wood, you churn it. What happens? It produces fire. How can a wood is that which has smell. That which has smell means it is a product of earth. So that which is a product of earth produce fire or be destroyed by fire. If something does not have inherently the property of the other element, if you say it is individually that element, it cannot have any association with the other element. But something which has the property of the other element only can be bound to another element. Like they take a cement and sand and make a mortar and add water to it and make a mortar. How can you do that? Cement will never associate itself with water, or sand will never associate with water if there is no connection. There is connection. How is this connection possible? That is what is explained through the processing. Panchikarana. So he says, Tanyeva sūkṣmabhūtāni vyomadini parasparam panchikritani sthūlābhūtāni bhavanti. Shrutatkaram. So I am going to explain this process of Vyomadini tani eva sūkṣmabhūtāni, the subtle bodies, subtle elements of ether, etc., space, etc. Parasparam panchikritani, parasparam militva panchikritani. By associating one with each other, we do this processing called panchikarana. When that panchikarana takes place, sthūlāni bhavanti, it becomes gross. Tatkramam sunu. I am going to explain the creation of gross elements. Listen to that order, that method which I am going to explain. What is that? He is bringing 3.5 shlokas to explain the processing. Just in 3.5 shlokas, he is explaining processing. There is nothing more needed for explaining panchikarana. 3.5 shlokas is more than enough. But even after doing that, Bhagavan Bhashyakara didn't feel this to be adequate. He wrote another text called Panchikarana. In 98, there was a Kumbh Mela in Haridwar. I had a old Swami who is a friend. He gave me 2 packets of a set of books. Packets, 2 packets, each consisting 50 copies. And I carried it all to Rishikesh and I distributed almost all the copies, leaving 4 copies for myself. That book is called as Panchikarana with Sureshwaracharya's commentary and in Hindi translation. I didn't understand the Hindi translation, so I studied the Sanskrit directly. But still, I was wondering, even after studying, why is an individual book necessary for Panchikarana? And why will Karikakara Sureshwaracharya Bhagavan write a commentary on it? And why at all will people translate it again? I was wondering. So all this is January, February period. When I went to Kashi first time in 98 June, I think. I was staying in this matha, in this ashram, in this place, where there was this old Swami who was reading some book. I used to be very crazy about books, so I went and stood in front of him and he said, "Sit, please sit." And he offered me a seat and I sat there and he started asking me who, what, etc. And after explaining all that, I asked him, "Swamiji, what is this book you are reading?" He immediately folded the book and gave it to me. "Read this." I read it, and the question who, what, and all does means that not just my name and my place of birth, etc. It also necessarily means what are you studying? What have you studied? What are you going to study? All these questions. So after that, he saw this, he gave me this book and I started reading. And I said, "Okay, but why do you, this is a very important book, remember this book." Panchikarana, very important book, and it had 6 people's commentary on it. He said, "Yes, a person who is a sannyasi should always read this book repeatedly." I said, for a sannyasi, normally Mandukya is the text which is prescribed. Mandukya ekamevalam vimukshunama vimukte, it is said. Mandukya 1 is enough. But why will person study this again? He said, "No, this is the essence of Mandukya." I didn't understand then. This is made very simple here. You understand the description of a body, you know what is the state, you know what are the sheaths, you know how the causal and subtle things are. So for inquiry in whichever way, if you are interested in inquiry into these 3 different states, waking, dream, and deep sleep, you can do that. If you want to do it in the bodies, gross, subtle, causal, you can do it here. If you want to enter into the inquiry into the sheaths, 5 sheaths, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, you can do it. So whichever way you choose your inquiry, they are all same, given different directions, that's all. It is all possible through that book. So that is why this Panchikarana, this processing is a very beautiful way of explaining things. How does he do? See, खादीनां भूतमेकैकं समम् एव द्विधा द्विधा विभज्यभागं तत्राद्यं त्यक्त्वा भागं द्वितीयकं चतुर्थास्युभत्य तमेकैकं विनिक्षिपेत् चतुर्णां प्रथमे भागे क्रमेण स्वार्धमन्तरा ततो व्योमादि भूतानां भागाः पञ्च भवन्ति ते स्व अर्धभागेन अन्येभ्यः प्राप्तं भागचतुष्टयं संयोज्य स्थूलतां यान्ति व्योमादीनां यथाक्रमम् खादीनां भूतम एकं समम एव द्विधा द्विधा विभज्य भागं तत्राद्यं त्यक्त्वा भागं द्वितीयकं चतुर्धा स्विभज्य अथ तम एकैकं विनिक्षिपेत् चतुर्णां प्रथमे भागे क्रमेण स्व अर्धमन्तरा ततः व्योमादि भूतानां भागाः पञ्च भवन्ति ते स्व अर्धभागेन अन्येभ्यः प्राप्तं भागचतुष्टयं संयोज्य स्थूलतां यान्ति व्योमादीनां यथाक्रमम्. This is the beautiful method of processing. I'll explain this, understand. There are 5 elements. You take each one of them, divide it into 2 equal parts. There are different ways to do it. You can put it all together, mix it well, and split it into 5. That is possible. But we don't know which will come in which way. That is a very stupid way of creation. So what we say is, take each one of these elements, divide it into equal parts. Okay, I have separated it into equal parts. Leave the first part. Take the second part. Divide it into 4 pieces. The second half, divide into 4 pieces. Each of them. Now, take 1/4 from all the other, leaving the main part. Whatever is the main part. What is the main part? I am taking example. I am taking space. So, leaving the space quarter, I am taking 1/4 from all the other elements. One from air, one from fire, one from water, one from earth. So 4 quarters makes the second half. Now I add that with the first half, which does not have whatever is in the second half. So the first half is space. The second half will not consist space, but it will have quarters of other elements. The first half has fire. First half is fire. Then the second half will not consist fire, but it will consist 1/4 of the other elements. 1/4 of the half of element means 1/8 of the other elements. With the first half, I add 1/8 of the other elements. I have a beautiful, what will I call it now? Because in air, I have air half and space 1/8, 1/8 of water, 1/8 of fire, 1/8 of earth. It has everything. What will I call? Whatever is majority, democracy wins. We'll call it air. Whatever is the majority portion, that will be the name given to it. This is what is called as panchikarana. When this comes together, the gross creation starts. That is why he says, khādīnām ekekam bhūtam. In the ether, etc., each elements samam eva dvidha vibhajya, equally splitting it into two parts. Samam, equally splitting into two parts. Tatra adya bhagam tyaktva, leaving the, tyaktva means not throwing away, giving up, but leaving the first part alone, not disturbing it, leave it as half intact. And dvitiyakam bhagam, the second part, chaturdha subhajya, nicely separating it into equal parts, the second part, second half, nicely splitting it into 4 equal parts. Now, thereafter, tam ekekam, that 4 quarters which you have separated, each one from them. So, ardhamantra, leaving the first half, whatever is in the first half, leaving that portion, the other portions. Prathame bhage, chaturnam prathame bhage vinikshpeta. Leaving alone the main, the first half portion, whatever is the first half, taking the quarters 1/8 from the other portions and associating with the first half. Tataha, therefore, thereafter what happens? Vyomadinam bhutanam panchabhaga bhavanti. It becomes space, etc. will have 5 parts. 1/2 and the quarters of the second half. So it is 4 + 1, 5 parts. Each one of them will have 5 parts. Now, bhagachatustayam sanyojya swa ardhabhagena manyebhya praptam bhagachatustayam sanyojya te vyomadini yathakraṃ sthūlatāṃ yanti. So when you add the first part with the other 4 parts and make it 5 parts, then they gain the name ether, etc., gaining the name of the predominant element in that mixture. That is how they gain the grossness. That is how the gross creation comes into existence. We will see this. Om purnamadah purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnamevavashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti.